Unmute mics.
I'd like to welcome everyone to this regular scheduled Oscoda Township Board meeting for October 28th. If we could begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cummings? Ms. McGuire?
Here.
Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Taser?
Present.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here. Next on our agenda is the public hearing for the Blight ordinance. Can I get a motion to go into the public hearing?
I would make a motion to open the public hearing for the blight ordinance.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Ms. McGuire. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, we are now in a public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak on the topic of the blight ordinance, which we've had 2 reads here during our board meetings? Is there anyone that would like to speak on this subject? All right. Board comment?
Under section 2B, number 3, I guess, I brought up a concern about the recreational equipment, and including but not limited to bicycles, toys, outdoor furniture shall not be placed or located in any front yard for a period longer than 2 consecutive days. So I had some concerns about people that were up here for the holiday weekend, or on vacation, Airbnbs, or people with their summer homes, and sometimes they don't have any other place to park that stuff while they're here for a week. And I don't see that that one got changed at all.
What was that number again?
It's under section 2B, front yards, and it's the 3rd one down.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was one that was going to be re-examined.
I did too, also.
The other 2 were 2H and 2I, I believe, and it doesn't look like those were updated either. I think there was a question about ornamental grasses versus grass on H, and then the time limit with no out for the villages on I.
Yeah, because I believe it was also supposed to be added to that, weather permitting.
Yes.
Right.
So, do we know for sure this is the updated version?
I don't. Give me just a moment, please.
I'm just wondering if the wrong version got put in the packet here. This.
I believe that we've got the wrong version in the packet. I apologize for that, and I would recommend that you postpone and reconsider on the 7th of November.
Okay. All right, in that case, can I get a motion to come out of the public hearing?
I'll make a motion, we come out of public hearing.
Support.
We have a motion by Ms. McGuire, support by Mr. Sutton. Now, roll call, please.
Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, we are now out of the public hearing. Next on the agenda is the agenda additions. And I would like to add to the agenda under ordinances, the blight ordinance. And at that time, we can vote on postponing that.
Blight ordinance.
So can I get a motion to approve the agenda with that addition?
I would also like to add under other number 8, review raising the purchase amount for department heads.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The purchase limit for department heads.
What is it now?
Depending on department, some of them had 1,000, some had different limits. So
No,
just
there's
like,
a standard in the purchasing policy.
yeah,
What is that number?
they were at 1,000 for theirs. Without the
1,000?
superintendent.
No.
It is $10,000 for the superintendent. The policy as written, I believe, says 2,000, but there was a subsequent resolution that raised it to 10
For department heads?
for the superintendent.
Oh.
I don't know that it addresses individual department heads.
Anything else? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the 2 additions?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with 2 additions.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, we have an agenda. Next is our first public comment. With this, we ask you to fill out a card. Please state your name when you come up to the podium for the record. Do we have any cards?
We do not.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda. This consists of the regular meeting minutes from October 14th, the work session minutes from October 17th, payment of bills from October 29th, and in the amount of $22,197.23, and the check one for October 22nd, in the amount of $27,796. We had some information today that these amounts might be less because we do have some credits that we can apply to some of these, so these amounts might be less. But since they're less, we can approve what's in the packet as is. Next is the C2R2 report, the CWSRF report, DWRF report, pre-granted refund, and the what's the wastewater treatment,
It's the bond.
the bonds.
Payment.
Yes, and tax overpayments. Any questions? Any of these?
Did put it in there.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I will support that. Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes?
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is our subcommittee reports, project updates. I don't see Mr. Freeman. Do you know, is he coming this evening?
I don't believe so.
Oh, he's not coming.
I believe his is in the packet. No, his report.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, his packet, his report is in the packet. There's not much change other than our projects are moving along. Next would be the airport report. That would be me. The airport was just notified that FEMA has chosen the airport facility as a stationing hub for emergency services through FEMA. They will be serving 6 counties in this area, and they will be bringing in some 350 semi-trailers with equipment to park on the base. So if you see a lot of trucks coming into the base, that's what it is. It's nothing to get scared about. They're staging for emergency situations in any of these 6 counties that FEMA takes care of. And Mr. Freeman is in the house. Yeah, that's perfect. And just one other item from the airport. They are working on the paperwork to submit for the grant to build a new terminal at the airport. So that, we saw perspective pictures of what it would look like, and it will be fantastic. Yep. It'll be slightly smaller than what we have now, but it'll be a beautiful building. So it's...
So we're going to have a big, new, beautiful building with a bunch of semi-trailers parked behind it, huh?
One of the semis will be a ways away from the terminal.
Fair enough.
Mr. Freeman?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I apologize for being a little late. Phase 6, the coal bath area of the C2R2 project is complete. In tonight's packet is the final balancing change order that cleans up that project, and then the final pay request, and that'll be submitted to Eagle for reimbursement here shortly through the C2R2 project. Just a summary, contractor completed 147 water main connections with curb stops and meter pits. Of that 147, 98 of them were water services, actual water services connecting to residents, and along with the well abandonments. The difference between the 147 and the 98 is curb stops were made and meter pits were installed at every parcel, so that future connections, the meter pits will all be in place. So, phase 7 of the water C2R2 project with Caterman Trucking, contractor is working on individual services and well abandonments. 33 have been completed to date, out of 58 that have signed up to date. 126 notices were initially sent out, with 12 of those responding no, and 51 so far no response. So we're working on a means to get more of a response on those 51 that are out there, and then also trying to get as many done this construction season, and then next spring coming up with a plan to, I don't know if it'll be going door to door and checking with them to make sure, but again, trying to do our best to get as many of those that are available hooked up, or at least responding.
What's the time limit on those, Rick, to be covered under the C2R2 grant?
The C2R2 grant goes until December 31st of 2025, so we have all of next year yet to clean up that as we go along, so.
Okay, thank you.
The 2024 DWRF water system improvements with Schaff and Associates. Pre-construction meeting is actually scheduled for this Wednesday, and request is being coordinated. As far as the first submittal requires a lot of additional paperwork just to get everything set up. I'm back with Dave getting that taken. That one will be officially in here shortly, and then looking to get the $750,000 back that we've spent so far, something like that. So
That'd be nice.
so. The EPA community grant, I'm waiting to hear back from the grant coordinator. The work plan's been submitted. The NEPA process, which is the environmental process, we're trying to use the NEPA process that we just completed for both the DWRF and the CWSRF, because it basically contains the same geographical area, same type of work, so we're hoping that they'll accept what we completed for that, which will expedite that process. The other thing also that they're looking at is the local share exemption. An EPA grant requires a 30% match, but again, with the DWRF project going on at the same time, we're using that as the local match as far as the township contribution to that. So we're getting that reviewed and approved. And then also the professional services election process that we use for the DWRF and SRF will suffice to cover the professional services selection for this project, and then we have the contractor selection process. So kind of working all those together, and then hopefully we will, plans are essentially done. And if everything goes accordingly, we would have it out for bid maybe late probably early January or February is what we'd be looking at there. The CDSMI water service inventory, that project is essentially done. We completed the inspections that were required by Eagle, submitted the report by the 16th of October, which was the deadline. They're obviously reviewing it, and we'll address any comments that come back. We did identify through that process, there were 6 galvanized water service lines identified on the residential side or the property owner side, and we're required to send out notices to those property owners that was found on their property, the steps that they need to go through to protect themselves against any possible water contamination or whatever, if they're not using water filters or whatever. And then don't know yet what Eagle's going to come up with as far as if there's going to be a program to help replace those or whatever, but as of right now, since it's on the property owner's side, they're being notified, and if they want to take action to correct it, it's at their cost. So. Water system leak detection, we have the preliminary report final draft report from M.E. Simpson. All the work's been completed in this field. There were no significant areas of concern identified. They did provide a standard operating procedure to look at the meters within the township to see if they're all calibrated correctly and if there's any other issues with the meters. We're already doing that with F&V operations as we go through it anyway. And then also we're going to meet with them and discuss what further options that they have to offer. Then we're also still looking at the cause of the River Road water main situation last spring or late winter. Still haven't identified really what's going on there. We're going to have a meeting in person with Roe, F&V, John Henry, and myself to go over that. One thing in F&B's operations of turning valves to kind of, I'll say, create the same problem again or identify what might have caused it, we're finding out there are some interesting things going on with the valves out on F41. So we're further investigating that area also as far as that goes. Another thing that has been noticed and working to correct it is there are some illicit use of water out of our fire hydrants. Contractors coming up, filling up tanks and stuff, which is unmetered and all of that. So we're working on putting systems in place to guard against that as far as future goes there. And then, again, try to identify maybe how much water loss we've gotten through illicit connections like that. So it's an ever-continuing review of that, and hopefully we'll have some more hard and fast answers here shortly. Sanitary sewer projects, the 2024 CWSRF, same with the DWRF. Pre-construction meetings are scheduled for Wednesday. Same thing with the first disbursement request, finalizing all the information that Eagle needed on that. And then one key there is Pump Station 8, which we had the bypass pumping from John Henry on. We now have the temporary pump that we purchased installed. So we've discontinued the bypass pumping. And one of the things that we'll be discussing with Elmer's at the pre-construction meeting on Wednesday is making that pump station #1 priority to get all the equipment ordered and basically reconstruct that pump station. So. Operations and maintenance, still working with the Operations Systems Incorporated and the Utilities Subcommittee and the Township Attorney. We're close to having the draft contract, I think, agreed upon by both sides, and move on to the next step there. Ratliff Park, that's the grant that we got from the DNR, the recreation grant, and they're finalizing the final plans and the budget, again, looking to advertise and bid that, again, probably timing now, probably in January for construction next year. Improvements to Warrior Pavilion and the restroom facilities and parking lot area. We had called Hull Island, but we got to start changing that. It's the Oscoda River, Scenic River Preserve. We did get notification from the governor's office and DNR that grant has been officially approved. We're in the process of having the project agreement and the resolution that goes along with that reviewed by the township attorney so that we can enter into that agreement. And then I believe later in the agenda, I did solicit 2 quotes for the appraisal of that from DNR certified appraisers, so we can move forward with the appraisal process, which, talking to either one of the companies, they're probably month and a half to 2 months out anyway, so we'll have the other paperwork in place before they start the actual appraisal process. Phase 3 trail project, I did submit the final grant reimbursement for that, and then I was notified there's a final inspection that the DNR needs to have with us on that, and then also along with that, the trust fund grant sign needs to be installed. So I've got the sign in my possession, and I'll work with Al at Parks and Rec or whatever to get that sign installed and then do the final inspection, which will then clear it for us to collect, I think, the remaining $30,000, I think, that's outstanding on that grant. Other than that, just miscellaneous stuff. Still working on the ORV crossing at the campground at River Road. with the Forestry Service, trying to get them to the table to make sure what we're proposing is okay with them. We're in good shape with the Road Commission on that. Continuing to research various funding opportunities for the facilities, new facilities for the future. Coordinating with the Utilities Subcommittee and F&B operations on, we talked about the water loss investigation. We did submit the Lagoon effluent discharge permit application back to Eagle. We haven't received any comments back on that. That's been outstanding since 2016 when they kind of set aside the process. And then the other PFAS and the IPP program are continuing to move forward. Special funding, had another on-site meeting today with the team from the Resilient Great Lakes Coast for the dune and the stormwater gardens at Oscoda Beach Park. We should have some concept layouts of that to present maybe in December or early January to go along with that and keep everybody informed as far as what's being proposed there. The Trust Fund Development Grant for Oscoda Beach Park, which is the boardwalk. We did submit the additional information that was required by October 1st to improve our score, and we should have a final decision on the grant in early December of 2024 this year yet. Same thing with the passport grant for the Oscoda Huron Sunrise Park. Submitted the additional information by 10/1. Final decision on that in December. MEDC RAP has funding out there right now. Applications will be due in January. Again, working with the township, we'll come up with if there's a good application to move forward with that. The grant does require a local match and commitment on that. We will try to, again, have one grant help out with the local match on that one so that there's no, I'll say, out-of-pocket cost to the township to make that application. And then there's new opportunities coming out from Eagle, MCOG, NEMCOG. We have a coastal zone management grant application that is due in December, I believe it is, and a letter of interest is can be submitted at any time, and I'm working on that, and I'm going to focus again on more of the projects at Oscoda Beach Park. That makes the most sense because they were involved with that Great Lakes Resilient grant also. And that's essentially it.
All right.
Any questions?
Have any questions for Rick?
I do have one comment, though. The Oscoda County Parks and Recreation Plan from millage that was passed 2 years ago, there's $25,000 available for our parks here in Oscoda Township. That's an annual grant.
You said Iosco County Parks?
Oscoda County,
And that's an annual?
that's annual.
Okay. I'll check into it.
Any other questions, comments for Rick? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Next up is the Planning Commission, Mr. Taser.
At our October 7th Planning Commission meeting, we had a public hearing for setting the limits on the short-term rental ordinance, which is in our packet tonight. And we also had appointed Commissioner Eric Kahn to be the Planning Commission Secretary. That's it.
Very good. ZBA, Mr. Spencer.
I haven't had a meeting yet, so no update there.
All right, LDFA, Ms. McGuire.
We don't have a meeting until next month.
All right. EIC, Mr. Sutton.
I'm gonna defer to Ms. House because we're usually saying the same thing, so.
Okay, she has a report here for us. The RAB, Mr. Cummings. Cedar Lake Improvement, Mr. Horning, you attended the last meeting.
Yeah, attended the last meeting on the 11th of October. Their audit is complete. They've done some lake scans, applied aquatic herbicides. The property known as the James Ditch property has been split, and a portion of it is for sale. And they are commencing work on their budget for fiscal year '25.
All right, thank you.
How was it? Did you get the results of the audit?
I did. I can share them with you if you like.
Everything was okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No comments. No comments that were out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Utility Subcommittee, Mr. Westerbar.
Mr. Freeman touched on most of the items. So we're just waiting on the contract to come back through Operations Services.
Last but not least, Ms. House, Community Development Director.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The first order of business for this evening was the board's direction to me regarding Mr. Eiler's proposal for Oscoda Elementary. And you saw my report, I'm sure, in your packets tonight. Is there any questions that you might have of me or comments?
Thank you for taking the time. It was very informative.
Thank you. It also helps when you have your husband's 1961 lumberjack yearbook, too. So, that helped. My plan is to take it to the EIC at our November 7th meeting. Any direction that you want, you probably saw Mr. Eiler's change in proposals that came in late last week. It was to, now he is offering the township the gymnasium. And he is also requesting deed restrictions on that property. So that is also in your packet for this evening. So do you have any further direction for the EIC and myself?
Does anybody have?
Nope.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I would simply direct them to review it and come up with a proposal if they think there should be one.
Okay, very good. I want to thank the board for looking and establishing the Corridor Improvement Authority, which is later on in your agenda tonight. Once that is established, that will be certified and sent to the Secretary of State's office in Lansing. I would also, myself personally, like to see that also registered with the county clerk's office. That way then both taxing jurisdictions, everybody's got a copy of it and knows what's going on. And it also has to be published in one edition of the Oscoda Press, just so you're aware of that. You are also aware in your packet tonight of the resignation of Mr. Eiler from the Economic Improvement Committee. To just let everybody know now, the next process, Mr. Carmona, as vice chair, will move into the chairman's position. They will need to vote for a vice chair. Mr. Laux, who was at the last board meeting appointed to the EIC as the alternate, he will now move to a regular seat on the committee. And so that means we'll have a vacancy for the alternate position. So we will be advertising for that position also. Just one other thing real quick, other than the other things that I'm doing in the office, a couple things. I met with the new owner of Cliffs Engraving this afternoon, Mr. Heilman, and he has plans on probably gutting that building and getting it updated, renovated, and up for lease. He's not planning at this point to put a business in there, but he is planning on getting it cleaned up. I also last week had an opportunity to go to the Planning for Prosperity meeting in regard to the consumer energy ownership of the dams. They have three options, as I'm sure everybody is aware of. The first one is that they can continue as is right now, operating the dams. They could sell the dams to new owners, which would mean that the licensing would continue until the year 2034, and then the new owners would have to relicense them at that time. And it takes about 5 to 6 years processing to relicense that. Or the third option is that consumers could decide to decommission the dams. They expect to have a final report after the first of the year, at which time they will have to do a public hearing, and hopefully they'll have a decision in the first quarter of 2025. One more thing, though, real quick, about facade grants. And I've had a lot of thought about this. My goal is to have that application available to our businesses shortly after the first of the year. My reason being is that this year, what our businesses are experiencing is, one, either contractors' unavailability to do the work because they're so busy, or two, they can't get the products that they want to do the project. We have one gentleman who's ordered new doors and windows. They've been on back order for 5 to 6 months. No fault of the businesses, but they can't complete the project. I had this germ of an idea to possibly roll over those committed funds for this year into the next year's budget. But after talking with Mr. Horning and looking at the budget, that might not be possible. But, you know, I want to find a way to balance what's affecting our businesses in reality and what we can offer them through the grants, if that makes any sense. So that's all from me. Any questions, comments, requests?
Anybody have any questions for Nancy?
Could the money be put into an escrow account that was awarded?
That's a good idea. I would like to maybe discuss that with Mr. Horning and see his thoughts on
That way it's
that.
out of the budget, it's out of the account, it's
Right.
sitting there, and then upon reward, or upon completion of the project, you can just release the
Right.
money to them, and then.
And you could still offer the $50,000 for the 5 businesses for next year, too. And that way, we could offer more money and to more businesses. So that would be a great idea. Thank you.
You betcha.
We'll look into that.
Or an accrual. Just create an accrual to be
Okay.
paid for next year from this year's
Okay.
budget.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is the superintendent's report.
As usual, I've got a bunch of invoices that I would like to have you consider for approval. First is, the first series is from Rowe Engineering. First invoice on the list is the invoice ending 564 for Water System Improvement Project 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve payment of invoice $115,564 for the Water System Improvement Project 2023 in the amount of $19,090 to be paid from C2R2 after the reimbursement is available or if funds are currently available.
Support?
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Next, we have invoice ending 572 for the 2024 DWSRF project.
I'd make a motion to approve payment of invoice number $115,572, 2024 DWSRF in the amount of $1,165 even to be paid from the 2024 DWSRF checking account.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Wurstabarth. Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Invoice ending 573 for the 2024 CWSRF project.
Make a motion to approve payment of invoice number 115,573 for the 2024 CWSRF in the amount of $4,190 even, to be paid from the 2024 CWSRF checking account.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Ms. McGuire.
I will just note that, Matt, those two invoices for DWSRF and CWSRF, you can have Tara send me those because I can pay those right away.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Invoice ending 575 for the downtown water main project.
Make a motion to approve invoice number 115,575 for the downtown water main project in the amount of $1,730 even, to be paid from the 2023 EPA checking account.
Support?
Same with that one. You can send that one also.
Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Invoice ending 578 for the C2R2 Phase 7.
Make a motion to approve invoice number 115,578 for the C2R2 Phase 7 construction project in the amount of $21,742.50, to be paid from the C2R2 account after reimbursement is available or if the funds are currently available.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Dwyer. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Invoice ending 579 for service lead inspections.
I'll make a motion to approve invoice number 115,579 for CDSMI service lead inspection in the amount of $6,035 even, to be paid from account 591-000-800.300.
Support?
Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
And finally, invoice ending 585 for IET engineering.
Make a motion to approve invoice number 115,585 for IET engineering in the amount of $2,645 even, to be paid from account 101-299-821.000.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Wishtabarth. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wishtabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Next, we have a change order from Schaff and Associates for the water main improvement project Phase 6. This increases contract price by a little over $195,000 to a little over $1.9 million.
What are they changing?
That is in the packet.
While you look for that, I'll make the motion to approve the change order required for the water main improvement project Phase 6 in the amount of $195,629.54 to be paid. Well, I guess we have to approve it and then approve payment, yeah? Approve the change and then approve the payment?
Yeah, that'll be the next motion.
All right, the description is additional services for the addition of ready-to-serve connections and balancing quantities for the additional connections.
And I will support that motion. Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Palmer. Questions?
Is there contingency built into that for these kind of change orders?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have to submit that now to legal. They review it, approve it before they would pay that final pay.
I don't think it's unusual to have change orders in these type of contracts, is it?
No, that's, and like I said, it's related to the 147 actual connections they made versus the 98 services they connected. That's really the discrepancy.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
Next, we have two pay applications. The first is application number 11 from Schaff and Associates for Water System Phase 6.
Make a motion to approve change order number 2 payment for Schaff and Associates Construction for the water system Phase 6 in the amount of $195,629.54 to be paid from C2R2 after reimbursement is available or if funds are currently available.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Wurstabarth. Questions, comments? This is the final payment, right?
This is the final payment for phase 6.
Okay. Yep.
I would update my motion to include the words final payment.
Okay.
I'll still support that.
Thank you.
For phase 6.
Roll call.
Of Phase 6, one more time. I would I'd like to amend my motion to include the final payment of Phase 6.
I will re-support that.
Thank you again.
Roll call when you're ready.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
And finally, we have application number 2 from Caterpillar Trucking for Water System Phase 7.
I will make a motion to approve pay application number 2 for Caterpillar Trucking in the amount of $68,527.80 for work on the Phase 7 water system improvements to be paid from C2R2 checking when funds are available.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up, resolution 2024-27. This is for the Corridor Improvement Authority. I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-27 relating to the creation of the Corridor Improvement Authority as presented.
Support.
Questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the short-term rental amendment, establishing the cap. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the zoning ordinance update sections 10 through 24 and sections 10 through 245.
Support?
Motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Questions?
Do we know how many people actually have a short-term rental?
I was going to ask how many licenses are currently available or how many registrations we have.
Yeah, that was
we-
gonna be my next question too.
Last I knew, I think we had 40.
That has
37.
registered.
Yes.
Do we know how many are actually in the township?
Well, if they didn't register, I don't care. They're supposed to register. There's an ordinance that says they're supposed to register, and if they haven't registered, then we can't account for them. So, right now, we've got 37, you said?
So
There
what
it is.
happens when they don't register?
I guess that depends on what the ordinance says is the penalty, if there is one.
So how do you know where to find them if you don't know where they are?
Somebody will report them usually, just like any other zoning violation. I don't think that they go around looking for them, but if somebody reports, hey, there's a bunch of people staying here that are different every week, then they
So
report
some
that
people will
to.
get penalized and some people won't?
If they don't register, I mean, it was made clear that if you're going to rent out your property for that purpose, that you have to register and pay your fee.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstabarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No?
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the 165 an ordinance amendment for the accessory structures. I will make a motion to approve the amendment to the 165 ordinance relating to accessory structures as presented.
Support.
Questions, comments?
What prompted the change to this?
It wasn't exactly the way we wrote it some years ago. Bob and I and several other people were on the subcommittee of the Planning Commission that rewrote this ordinance so people that, and this only applies to people that live on lakes, so that if they own the property across from their house, they can build an independent garage to store their toys. And somehow it got convoluted that it has to be directly across from their residence.
51%.
Yeah. And,
That was the way it was originally written, correct?
It was originally written that it had to be across the street, not a majority.
Okay.
yeah,
And we're changing it, so now it still has to be across the street, but even if it's a foot across from your property, then you can still get it.
But up to 300 feet, so a football's length away? That's a long way. And it's only for people that live on the lake?
yes.
Well, they're the only ones affected by the, I mean, they can't, if they've only got a little sliver next to the lake and they buy the lot across from them.
Right,
we're gonna
I get
say-
that.
Or even if they buy the lot 295 feet down the road so that they can build a garage for their vehicles or their water toys, I mean, should we say that they can't have a garage across the street down the road?
No, but I'm just saying, what if there was other situations where people owned property across the street and they wanted to put their garage over there because they wanted a big fenced-in
I think
yard?
that is actually a question. I've had people ask me about that, and so I refer them to go talk to the planning and zoning folks. But in this specific case, it's specific to the waterfront property. I think that you're absolutely correct, Ms. McGuire, and that should be addressed. But by this specific section right here, this is just
Right.
for the waterfront. They'd have to change the other section independently.
I get it. I just think 300 feet's a lot.
I do too. I originally said 1% of the property. 1% across the street,
Right?
lined up.
Yeah, I think so
Really?
too. Well, I
You wouldn't let them,
think
if
that-
it's down the road from, a mile
I
down
just
the road,
think
they
it gets
can't.
convoluted that way.
I think it should be directly across the street the way we originally wrote it. Now, if I'm standing on my property, I'm looking across the street, and 1 foot of that property, even if it's over, it's still across the street.
Is there somebody that can give us, or give me anyway, some insight to why they wanted the 300 feet? Maybe I just,
The discussion at the Planning Commission revolved around what Mr. Taser was just talking about. And one of the recommendations that came up was that it be within sight of the lakefront property, but that is a bit vague. So the 300 feet was kind of a concession to figure out an actual measurable number rather than line of sight.
That would put it within sight. Was there
300 feet? I don't know, I can't
within
see that
300
far.
feet?
That's one football field.
Right,
300 yards.
that's how it's written.
Yeah, 300 feet, it's what? like-
Football field's 900.
Oh, so it's way less than that. Yeah, you can't be able to see
Your
that.
average lot's 50.
300 feet? I mean, this building might be only 300.
So you're saying like if you have one across the street, you may not be able to get that one right across, but what if this piece of land's for sale, you're still within
Boy, I'm on the
range of it?
fence now.
Right?
That's always been, the struggle for people with zoning on lakefront is you
Well,
can't
zoning
really,
anywhere,
you
'cause
can't put a
that's-
garage in because usually the house is already taking up
Right.
the footprint of that
And,
property.
but that's what Ms. McGuire's talking about, is that even on non-lakefront property, if your lot is too small to continue building on because of setbacks and whatnot, then, and you buy the place, a half mile down the road so you can build your storage shed down there, then no, you can't do that.
So I remember conversations, and it's been like, I want to say since 2007, 2008 timeframe. And I'm sure I did not get a chance to get a hold of Rick Binkowski, because I remember the conversations at the board level with him and this very topic. So that's why I'm a little bit resistant to it. Reticent. I like your 1%.
That's what I thought we had in there. I believe that was the motion that I made at the public hearing.
My only question would be, there's no way to restrict it, because we had language in the last one that you had the restricted deed, that property
That's
was
still in
across the
there.
street. That's still in there, so.
That's still in there.
I don't know how the state is gonna let you do that unless the property is physically across the street.
Okay.
Asked to have you consider tabling this ordinance change.
Is there any reason that we need to pass this tonight?
Well, my motion at the planning commission, I know what I stated, but
Well, I'll rescind my motion, or, I guess I can, we have a motion on the floor, don't we?
Well, I made the motion and Mr. Taser supported. I will amend my motion to postpone action on this accessory structure. You still have support? Mr. Taser?
we've already had the public hearing on this, and the motion that was made at the public hearing is not the same that what is written in front of us.
So I think that's what somebody was saying, is that, again, we may have the wrong document in our packet. So if this was upgraded or changed.
Can you clarify for the record what your motion was?
I can't state it verbatim, but it was 1% property. That should be reflected in the minutes.
And that would work for a restricted deed requirement.
Yes.
I'll support tabling till we get a correct document.
Well, Mr. Taser had supported my motion to move forward, but I'm changing my motion to postpone, if you still support that.
I'll support that.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes?
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurstenbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. We will table that to a later meeting. Next up is the blight ordinance. I would make a motion to postpone that.
Support.
Till we can get the correct document in the packet.
And postpone it.
Postpone, yes. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes, motion passed. Next up is a tax sale water write-off. We had one of these at our last meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the write-off in the amount of $131.19 for the property located at 8212A Florida Street in Oscoda.
I will support that. Questions, comments? Fortunately, we have to do these from time to time. There's really no way to get around it. Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mr. Taser,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Palmer,
Yes, motion passed. Next is the EIC resignation. I would make a motion to approve the resignation of Dave Eiler from the EIC with deep regrets. Dave has done a good job on that committee. He's chaired that for quite some time, and he'll be missed on that committee.
Support with deep regrets. And a thank you for his service.
Yes. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
Mr. Wurstabarth,
Yes.
Mr. Taser,
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes, Mr. Palmer,
Yes, motion passed. Next is the Lake Huron Forever Pledge.
I would make a motion to approve the Lake Huron Forever Pledge as presented.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Wurstabarth. Comments, questions?
I have an email here from our attorney that I would like to read. And it talks about this pledge. It says, "This pledge goes beyond just making promises, and while the document in and of itself does not commit the township to spend any funds, it does require the township to participate in projects that potentially will involve expenditures of public funds." And it notes to see the action steps on page 3 of that document. And it says that they don't see any legal concerns with the document, but they just want to make sure it is clear on what signing a pledge will commit the township to. So I discourage the board to vote yes for this. And if anything, they should at least let the next board deal with it.
What are the pros and cons of this? I'm reading through it, and it's all wonderful, but it does seem like it's locking us into, holding our feet to the fire for things in the future that we may want to do. And if everybody around us says no, then we're out of luck. And
Exactly.
I don't think that it would be right for us to jail our properties on this township to this agreement.
No, and there's no amounts or anything that it's saying or any end to it. It's wanting you to actually budget things in your budget for these things. And with I don't know if the rest of the board had the chance to look at it, but the proposed budget for 2025 is already at a deficit of $685,000, I'm thinking that's the number, that we have to try to come up with money to make that balance. And it's no secret, as Sable Township has been talking, that they are talking about going out for their own police services. So if we lose them, that's another $560,000. So I don't think we should be committing to something that we have no idea what we're even committing to.
Now, the financial commitment is to basically continue doing the same thing we do by having funds allocated and maintaining a park.
That's not what it
There's
says
other
in the
goals
thing.
in there that they would look at, like the LHF, we're already working with them on grant funding. That's not at a cost, that's actually working on the dune project that we're working on right now.
Well, our own attorney wrote this, so I would be inclined to follow her.
No, didn't sound like she said to do it one way or the other. She just wanted to make doggone sure that we knew that there's probably gonna be financial commitments here.
Yes,
But we
and-
don't know what they are.
Right, and that's even worse.
I have to agree.
Any comments?
Alpena, Bay City, all gray have signed this. And I think clean water is important, and getting more entities involved in working across the region to clean up Lake Huron and keep it clean is a good thing.
Bay
Remember,
City and Saginaw.
we get our drinking water from this lake.
Yep, we do. Bay City and Saginaw are also cities, and they have 3 times the tax base. Maybe push this towards the county, see if they'll do
Great.
it.
Monterey, Alpena,
Alpena's a city.
everybody from Saginaw, Bay City up,
Well,
the last few.
I think we have other things that we should be taking care of.
And they all jumped in with both feet, huh?
Yeah, well, you also get a ton of funding. That's when I went down there. There's millions of dollars in funding that's used for these projects with the LHF, and you're getting funding from Canada, tribal governments, and municipalities.
Well, yeah, but they might be giving us money that they're going to dictate how we spend.
It's just like a preferred status when we're doing things like we already have for going out for grants.
I mean, it sounds wonderful on the surface. This is something that,
So by not having this pledge, we would not be eligible for certain fundings that would be available
through them.
through this project, various projects for lakeshore communities on Lake Huron.
There are other grant opportunities.
And that doesn't, and saying no today doesn't mean that the new board can't say yes in 6 months.
That's right.
That's true.
Once they come back with, oh, this is the actual financial requirements here.
We're missing out.
Right, and we could, and I mean, the way I'm looking at, I might be totally wrong, I might be. But the way I'm looking at it right now, without any further information from these folks, no.
Yeah, because none of the pledges have a financial amount listed.
Right, they're just tossing out a bunch of stuff down
Generalized over
out there with a bunch of verbiage that locks us into a contract, you know.
Well, it can't lock us in if there's no fixed amount. You can't lock something in for a fixed amount.
Well, they wouldn't lock it in for a fixed amount. They would lock it in to say, well, you said you would do this project and it costs this much, so you need to pony up. And we say, well, we don't have that right now. And they, well, you signed the document, you agreed to the pledge.
No, the
That's not
projects
how it
are-
works.
Yeah, they
That's
help
what
you
the-
work.
That's what the attorney said in her letter. There's no legal obligation here. There's not a legal obligation for us to do anything if we sign the pledge. That was what she said in her letter.
But
Fair
you
enough.
could potentially
But to
involve
be-
expenditure of
but to be-
public funds.
Be aware there could be an expenditure, and it could be the form of a matching grant, for instance.
I don't think that this is one of those things where it's their heart is in the right place, but can the verbiage that's contained in this pledge be twisted by somebody in the future into forcing our hand? And I think that that's exactly what this kind of thing is. Let's get them set up on this pledge, and then down the road, well, it says in there this and this and this, and we interpret it this way, and so you're on the hook because you agreed to it.
Our legal attorney said otherwise.
Except for the financial obligations. It's said you may have to
Well,
spend
she's
this
also
money.
resigning, so.
Well,
Any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No,
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
no.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next up is the demolition RFP. This is a proposal. We have a number of properties that have been designated by the county as uninhabitable, and we would like to put out an RFP to get these torn down.
how do they get paid for the demolition? Do we get funding for that from somewhere?
I believe we do.
We will pay for the cost of demolition, and we will bill the property owners. If they fail to pay, we can apply that to their property taxes at a future time.
So we put a lien on the property.
Correct.
The only issue I have with this is just the project completion deadline. I mean, you're just going to get the RFP back November 6th, and you're expecting work to be done in 2 weeks to tear down 3 properties. It just doesn't seem like enough time.
So these properties aren't owned by the government in any way. They're owned by private individuals?
That is
You
correct.
want the RFP back when?
And I guess I don't understand, if it's owned by a private individual, why the taxpayers would foot the bill to clean that property up when it's obvious, it's their responsibility as the owner of the property.
It's just like the same concept as unmowed lawns or uncleaned sidewalks, where the municipality will go perform the work, bill the homeowner. If the homeowner doesn't pay it, then it's applied to their taxes.
So they've had ample notice that these are blight.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree, we can probably not knock these things down in 12 days. So.
Maybe we should extend that to end of January 2025.
Is the proposal date, so we haven't sent this out yet.
No, it'll go out tomorrow.
So how many places are we sending this to?
I know of 2 local, and I've encouraged Mr. Bruckner to also look toward Bay City and Saginaw to see if there's any qualified contractors.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the RFP with changing the project completion date to read January 31st, 2025.
I'll support that.
Motion by Mr. Wusterbarth, support by Mr. Taser. Questions, comments?
What was the date that you extended to?
January 31st, 2025.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is motion to pay bills till the next regular meeting.
I'd make a motion to approve the payment of bills until our next regular scheduled meeting.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the proposal for the appraisal. This is for the Oscoda Scenic Preserve. Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the engineer's recommendation that Jeffries Dyer Incorporated at 18555 Glacier Trail, Hillman, Michigan, 49746, in the amount of $2,450 as presented.
I will support. Motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Palmer. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the scope of work and estimate for the Oscoda River Preserve stewardship for 2025. This is involving with Huron pines and invasive species. Also includes removal of invasive species and training for our DPW to monitor that and be able to do that in the future. I would make a motion to approve the draft scope of work for Huron pines for identifying, removal, and training involving invasive species in the Oscoda River Scenic Preserve in the amount not to exceed $5,000.
Support, Sutton.
Comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wurschbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next was the purchasing amount for department heads. Mr. Sutton, you had?
Yep. I would like to make a motion to set the purchasing amount for department heads at $5,000.
Support. Why?
Last time we were in a situation without a superintendent. The superintendent's who the department heads go to for approval. That's why they have a higher amount. So with that lower amount, I know a lot of costs for most of our departments, such as police buying ammo and everything, those usually exceed the current limit that they have. So I'm just looking at a limit with Matt not being here after the 15th, so the department heads are still able at the end of the year to purchase the things they need to before their budget time's up.
Bill will be here to do that, though. And then the next supervisor will have the right to do that. So you don't need to raise the limit. There'll be somebody here performing those functions.
What is the limit now?
I have no idea. I would like to know that.
Thought it was 2,000.
I thought it was 4.
So I know we've had issues before when we come into it. I just looked at their average expenditures for some of the things they do. Just so if somebody's not out or in, I mean, even if it's until you guys have your first meeting and you know who's gonna be when, where, what.
Well, the supervisor would have those duties until whatever happens. And Matt will be here as needed till the 15th, I believe you said?
Correct.
Right.
So we don't really know what it is right now, so we could establish it at 5, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
that's what I'm saying. That's half what we had the superintendent at. You're still gonna have to go for anything above that, but if they're doing any purchases, then they're not waiting for somebody.
Well,
I
wish-
mean, like right now, we have Bill here on Tuesday and Thursday. We can reach out to him if we needed something and get him in, but just if you're in a position to order that stuff.
Right, I wish you would have brought a copy of the purchasing policy so we could look at the whole document. That would have been helpful.
Yeah.
I know it was brought up at one time, our parks director, they needed to buy some dirt, I think for the kayak launch, and it was $500 or $600, and they didn't have authorization for that amount, was my understanding, and had to get an approval. So I don't know if different department heads have different amounts. I have no idea. I don't know what the,
That would be in the
Limits are-
purchasing policy.
and unfortunately, we don't have that with us here, so I don't know what.
Was this brought on by, are the department heads asking for this?
These are just instances that we've run into when we don't have somebody here just for a vacation or something, but now you're gonna have changeover to the board and no superintendent. So just to make sure that your last month and a half of the year that your departments are running, because if they don't get approval on something, you hit the end of the year and they can't spend their money from 24 into 25.
There will be
Unless it's
always somebody
flood critical
available.
purchase.
I don't think 5,000 is an unreasonable limit to have on our department.
Well, yeah, these are directors of an entire department for the township. I mean,
Right.
they have earned some level of trust, and they've been dealing with, I mean, some of those guys work on, equipment that costs more than I make in 15 years. So, I mean, and they're not, they don't tear it up, they don't drive it into the ditch on purpose. I'd like to think that the directors of the department should have a little bit of leeway. I just don't, I don't know.
They have a limit now.
They
We're not
do.
sure what it is, so we'd like to establish what that is. So,
And I'm guessing it must be less than $5,000. So if we set that limit at 5,000, I think that's a reasonable amount. Anything over that, they have to get approval for. Any other questions? Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Wursterbarth?
Yes.
Ms. McGuire?
No.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. That is all of our agenda items. Next is public comment. If you would like to make a public comment, please come up to the podium, state your name for the record. Let's see.
David Carmona, local resident. Just here to say that we appreciate all the support from the community for Shoreline Players this last weekend for our opening weekend for the Addams Family, the musical. It's a great time. Everybody that attended had a wonderful time there. We have 3 more opportunities to do. Come and see that next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday matinee. And we want to thank everyone in the community for the support and love they've shown this theater as it grows and matures and becomes an integral part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi there, Kathy Woosterbarth. Since Tim was not here to be able to give the RAB update, I'm going to I'll update you on some things I know about. So the next RAB meeting, Restoration Advisory Board meeting, is on November 20th at 5 o'clock at the United Methodist Church. Before that, hopefully, we're going to be meeting as a RAB to review a independent report that has been created for the alert aircraft area interim remedial action, which you can see if you drive down F41, you can see some new building kind of occurring in the ground there. That's that system that they have independently reviewed, and they have some feedback for the Air Force on how that should be done and maybe changes. And so we haven't seen the report yet, so we don't know. But I also wanted to point out that the state of Michigan has issued a dispute resolution document that is related to the monitoring of those systems and the Air Force's inappropriate application of state regulations. So that will be ongoing. That's happened in the last month. So we have gone through that process before. It took a very long time, and I don't even really think we got much results out of it. But so we're back at this again with the Air Force in terms of them monitoring the system. So the state is saying that there is a misapplication, and they publicly stated that the Air Force has a poor track record with compliance. So I would encourage the new board, any new board members that are going to be coming on, to take a look at that and make sure you keep an eye on what's happening there. And yeah, just keep fighting for that clean water. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other public comment? Seeing none. Board comment. Mr. Wistbar?
None.
Mr. Taser?
Nope.
Ms. McGuire?
Nope.
Mr. Spencer?
Yeah, I'll toss out something. I'd like to thank Oscoda for the opportunity, and God bless America.
Amen. Mr. Sutton?
I would just like to update everybody. Early voting saw more people on Saturday than we saw for the last 2 elections. So I thought that was amazing. We had just about 350 people. We had 199 yesterday, and we were in the meeting before I could get the count today on it. So that was just amazing, and I wanted to thank the citizens. It's a lot of Oscoda voters that have been going down. We actually took hard ballots down there so they can get the hard ballots at early voting. And we have had an uptick in AV, but we've had just over 70% of AV ballots returned already as well. So just phenomenal, something I've always talked about every election, so I really appreciate everybody getting out of there, utilizing all these tools to vote, especially with the changes in Proposal 2, there was added costs, so we were a little disheartened the first couple times we did it, and we'd have maybe 10, 12 people a day, so getting 200 to 500 plus people a day is amazing, so keep it up. We do have the election coming up. You can still get an absentee ballot through this Friday. Friday on, you will have to vote the ballot at the township poll. You can't leave with it because we have to make sure we'll have it. The mail might not deliver it by election day. Early voting will still run through this Saturday. It'll be your last day to go vote in person at Tawas Township Hall, and that's on the corner of McCardle and M55, about 2-3 miles just west of the IRESA building. And I would just like to thank the board for their support and votes on the Lake Huron Forever Pledge. That has been a project I've been working on for quite a while with a lot of these communities, and clean water is a huge deal. As we said, Lake Huron is where our drinking water comes from, and that's where most of the drinking water for everybody around Lake Huron comes from, even on the Canada side and the tribal governments that are pulling water along Lake Huron or through any of the watersheds that are connected to that. So it's just a really good step to take that serious, and especially with the issues we've had up here with PFAS and other things, we see how even good intentions, we can end up with something that could risk our drinking water and all the waterways we use. And I would just like to follow up with thanking the community for electing me. These 4 years have been amazing. I've learned a lot, worked with a lot of people. Being in the clerk's office is really unique, from helping people with their cemetery lots and burials to elections and more. It's really been an amazing experience to work with the citizens of the community in the clerk's office on all of those things. Not always pleasant, but definitely gets you in the heart when you're there to work on those things that are near and dear and passionate to people. So thank you to the board and the community, and I hope everybody has safe and happy holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. And I would just comment that this is our last official scheduled board meeting for this board. We do have a scheduled special meeting on November 7th to go over our budget. I would like to thank the residents of Oscoda Township for supporting me for 2 terms on this board. I've enjoyed it for the most part. It has certainly been a learning experience. I have learned an amazing amount of things relating to municipal government that I had no idea what was involved there. And so I want to thank the community for their support, for supporting me, and wish the new board well in their endeavors, and best of luck. So with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.